You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, a lovely Thursday, another hot day. I have Lisa Schwarz on, and she needs no introduction anywhere in the civilized world. So, the Crazy 8 Ministries is a bit... Has the hot weather affected y'all's ministry?
It does. I mean, our campuses get real hot, and we have to. We have to continuously communicate to our residents that there is no air conditioning unit that is designed to drop the temperature more than 20 degrees than when it's outside. So let's help every unit out. Close your curtains. Keep the doors. We try and encourage them to keep the doors opened as far as within the campus, so that you get airflow and.
Well, don't you get your electricity free since your ministry?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. No, I don't think so. But it's, are you on the co-op?
We are. It depends on the campus.
Okay.
All of them are different.
Well, it's just, I know that's got to be an expense. I know
it is.
It's a slap.
Unbelievable. I mean, with the increase of utilities anyways, last year we saw our electric bill double. Last year our water bill doubled. And so then when you get these hot 3-digit degree days, it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I was watching the news last night, and they're talking about this heat being caused by climate change. I'm thinking, when the Yankees get hot, it's climate change. When we get hot, it's July.
It's July into Texas.
Yeah, right. It's like, don't give me all this. But anyway, I'm a semi-skeptic, but not a full-on skeptic about climate change. But that's a whole nother podcast right there. But we're going to talk about what's going on. You said you had a golf tournament coming up at about...
We do have a golf tournament up. So that golf tournament's on September 29. It's going to be at Southern Oaks. So we have some sponsors already. Of course, Express Employment Professionals of Johnson County. Sonia Southard is our title sponsor again this year. And so she's always... very supportive of the ministry and the mission. So we're excited about that coming up. And then we have our Ocho Loco, which is our 5K. It's on November 4th, and it's going to be actually in the city of Burleson this year. So we've moved it to bring it into Burleson. They have that real cool running trail and all that stuff. So those are some things coming up. Yeah.
Well, I'm not a nonprofit, so I got to talk about these sponsors.
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead. You go
I
ahead.
may be close to a nonprofit, but no. But anyway, talk about these sponsors and all these other things that are going on. Our friends at CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. You definitely don't want to be working outside in this heat, so go inside. They at least got the fans going on. So CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Check out their webpage for the memberships and the classes and what they offer. Also, Shandy Stogsdill, the Stogsdill Group. She's still out there selling houses. She does really well. Yeah, it's been a while since we visited, about a month and a half, right? Close.
Yeah.
And she sold my daughter's house. And
very cool.
And I couldn't have done it myself, certainly. So thank you, Shandy, for what you do. And if you're looking to move in and around this area, she's the one to talk to. Also, our friends Otto at our place. Happy birthday, Otto. Yesterday was his birthday. And, I was just there last week and visited with him, and he's doing fine. It's a great place to do business, a very comfortable atmosphere, great food. And
great coffee.
Great coffee, yeah. I'm not knocking other restaurants. We got a lot of good restaurants in Wilson.
Absolutely.
But I'm very partial to this one, not just because he's a sponsor. But we have a lot of good restaurants, and many of which that Otto himself would, he goes to and recommends. But it just really is our place. So there you are.
Yeah.
Also, thank you to Wild Cigar and Culture. You haven't got Brad smoking cigars yet, have you?
I try and get him to stop smoking cigars, but he doesn't listen to me. He does. I think because he travels out of town, so I think he probably likes to smoke a cigar here or there, but he doesn't on a regular
when you're
basis.
Not around. Okay.
Yeah, he definitely is not going to do it around me just because I can't stand the smell. But
well, this is a good place for him to go get his cigars and take.
I think he does get his cigars there, and
it's got a nice humidor. And also, you got a great business place if you ever wanted to do business and to have a conference room. I don't know if Crazy 8 will be hitting the bar, but they do have one. So it's a nice bar. It's not a roadhouse.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, Chris. Thank you also to Local Life magazine. The magazine should be out next week. Tiffany's hard at work right now, getting it all together. This is the time when she's sending in the final copies for printing and whatnot. So you should be getting yours in about a week. Okay. And it's always got great things.
It does.
30,000 homes get it. plus a lot of businesses. I was at a
And it's nice to get something in print still.
Yes.
It really is.
I've read that print's making a comeback because people are just kind of like tired of sitting in front of a screen all the time.
Yeah. I have read the same thing that print is making a comeback.
I hope so. Also, we have Southern Gym. They're open right now. They're at that bottom floor location. It's been open about 3 weeks now. And then my wife tells me that they get a lot more business now because people are curious to see what it looks like. And it's really nice. So Brad needs to take you over there.
He tries to avoid those kind of
Yeah,
places
well,
with me.
but tell you what, see, what I liked about Gayla's thinking is that she has a bullpen to park the husbands while you go do the shopping.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
there'll be
I can
some
trade
on
him a
TV.
cigar. He can go sit in, Wild Cigar and Bar, and then I'll go to Southern Jam. I feel like that's a fair exchange.
Now you're talking. That's a good deal. There you go. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Gayla from Southern Gym. Also, thank you to Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. Did your properties get hammered by hail?
We did have one that we're getting re-roofed. Yeah.
Well, Old Pro, he's here in town, local, down from Old Town, and John will come check your roof out. And I saw him yesterday at the B&I meeting, and he's just busier than can be, so which is good for him.
But yeah, when you have grapefruit size hail.
Well, in our neighborhood, we have several new roofs going up. But when he came and inspected mine, he said yours is good, but there's Old Pro I know is doing 3 in my neighborhood, and you see the signs. It's all good. Thank you to also our friend Melissa Harmon, Texas Farm Bureau. She's always on call 682-804-0534. Check out your insurance. She'll see if she could save you some money. She also is a BNI member, and she told us at the last meeting last week about how we're in for some insurance shocks cost wise because of the hail, because of other natural disasters, et cetera, et cetera. And so you need to make sure.
I've heard there's a couple of, I don't want to throw out names, but there's a couple of big insurance companies that won't cover California or Florida anymore.
Well, I could name the companies.
You go ahead. It's your show.
It's State Farm won't cover California. Florida,
I try and keep it clean.
Farmers, I think, is pulling out of Florida. But Texas Farm Bureau, we asked her, said, "You ever going to pull out? What are you doing?"
Those are his sound effects.
It was like the wah, wah, wah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Texas Farm Bureau, we asked, "Are y'all going to pull it out?" So, of course not. And the thing about they're a differently styled company, so they're going to be here for the long haul. 682-804-0534. And then our friend Lisa and her husband Morris came by yesterday for the meeting, and he's a very impressive man. They've been on the show a couple of times. It's Stop Restoration, where they get it right the first time. Biohazards, fire damage, water damage, mold in particular. That's in Texas, you're going to have mold. And people say, "Oh, yeah, we treat mold," or whatever. You go to Lowe's and you splash some stuff on the wall or whatever. They come and they tell you, "No, here's what the deal is." And they're certified to do that.
Yeah.
And so there you are. Also, our friends at Next Step. I'm reading this script here. Next Step Women's Center is having their big Christmas in July this Saturday with new toys, 9 to 11. Drop by a new toy. There were snow cones. We're going to have Santa there, but I had Megan and Summer on last show, and I said, "You're not going to make poor Santa wear that uniform, are you?"
Is he doing Summer Santa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. So you're having, you got that big event coming up. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So what's going on with Crazy 8 besides just?
Well, I think our biggest news is, about every 2 to 3 months, we say we flip residents, when residents move out and move into a different phase of program that leaves openings, of course. And we talked about the waiting list that we have. And so we kind of about every 3 to 4 months kind of circle this process of interviewing new residents, moving them in. So we've moved in 5, maybe 6 new residents in the last 2 weeks. Some have moved into our South Campus, which is our singles campus.
Where exactly is that?
So that one is on North Wilhite on the south side of Cleburne, and then our family campus is on North Wilhite on the north side of Cleburne.
Okay.
They're both on Wilhite on opposite ends of the city. So, but our South Campus is our singles campus. And so we can, our capacity there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, anywhere from 9 to 10 single women.
Okay, so they're all women, right?
Right now they are. We have technically have a men's wing and we have a women's wing, but our men's wing sat empty that we just started filling it with women.
Why is that? You just had fewer male clients or
Men
something?
don't want to be rehabilitated. If they need shelter, they just want a place to stay while it's hot. And the men that we've had a couple of men come and have been very successful, have stayed for a year and a half. But that's been maybe 3 out of 35.
Most men think they could handle it on their own, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they just need a place to live until they get a job, and then they're out. They don't want to work with a counselor. They don't want to do case management. They don't want to be rehabilitated. Now, we do have men in our program who are married, and their entire family structure lives in our program. And we do have good luck in that type of scenario. But for single men, we just, so we've kind of rewritten the program to where it's just like 3 months, and it's just minimal need, more just providing for, a place to live. But it's difficult because we have the male side, the female side, and it's difficult to get the men to operate on the communally the way the women do.
I was just thinking also, is there any risk involved with having a co-ed situation?
Yes.
Not to get too graphic.
Yeah,
of course,
well, I mean, there's risk involved with same sex as well. So we've seen it all. We've walked in on it all.
Boy.
And so, so there's that risk is actually on all of our campuses is just, inappropriate sexual relations. We have that issue.
How do you account for that? I mean, you have like security there or something like that?
Well, we don't have security in their bedrooms,
of course,
but these people are we tell them they're like crabs in a bucket. They tell us everything that's happening. Sometimes things that we don't want to know. So they rat each other out.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
Well,
so we know everything that goes on all the time because they're all, it's going to get back to us. It's kind of like living in a fish tank when you're in communal living. If,
I'm just thinking that'd be very hard to control, to account for because you're not there 24/7. You don't have their rooms bugged and all this other stuff. But I can just imagine, you got some people that live pretty rough lives, and they may not have the same understanding, shall we say, of the standards expected of them.
Yeah.
I know that sounds kind of tacky, but that really is kind of the case, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. And it's part of the covenant that there's, unless you're married, there's no sexual relations on the grounds or in the campus.
So a woman comes to you, how do you vet her? We've talked about this before, but not everybody's heard maybe your last show. Because you do have to be careful about who comes in, because you may end up somebody has some very serious mental or psychological problems.
Right.
So how do you vet somebody who may not have a paper trail or a record to follow?
Yeah, it's not easy because, of course, when they all come in, they all appear quote unquote normal, but also very messed up, very dysfunctional. So, and so sometimes when we're like interviewing 5 or 6 people back to back, we're like, oh my gosh, that one would be really hard. And I'm like, well, we have to remember, like, well, this is what we do. Like, this is the culture of people that we're going to be interviewing. We're not interviewing for a position for CEO, right? So they're all a little bit quirky. They have communications issues. They talk in story form. So they're kind of talking in circles and telling you stories, and you're trying to figure out what is the answer. So it can be really challenging to try and feel your way through all that. And some of that is poverty behavior. We talk about poverty communication. Their language is very story form.
Why is that?
I think so that if you read the history of why is poverty story form, they will say because that's how they sought attention as a child. It's also how they entertained themselves. They're really good storytellers. But sometimes when you ask a very direct question, like, did you call so-and-so yesterday and get that goal done? It's going to be this long, well, I try to call, and you have to really focus to try, and I can't even hardly reiterate it. 'Cause it's like, sometimes you just kind of tip your head like, so yes or no.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah.
So yes, you did call, or no, you did. Well, I mean, I did call, but I got a voicemail, and then they called me back, and then and then I think I had the wrong number, and they told me to call this person, and I'm like, and so it's just this big, long, everything is very complicated.
As a teacher, I'd say,
yes.
Hey, got your homework? They'd say, okay, Mr. Allard, here's the deal. And so it's like, oh,
it's a yes or no question.
It's a no, and it's like, okay, I said, so here's the deal. Okay, I'm in for a wild goose chase here. Yeah. But do you check like police arrest records?
We don't. We ask them if they have, if they have a felony record, those kinds of things. If we feel like there's some kind of concern there, then we will do like a background check, looking for just only specific things. I mean, most of our residents have some sort of felony record in their past. But we usually ask, like, what is your felony for? And they're usually pretty honest. And if we feel like we need to check it out, we do, but we've never had any issues on that level.
Okay.
Our biggest issues that we've had in the past have probably been, well, mostly just interpersonally relations, that just, conflict, just getting along, communication, those kinds of things. Occasionally we've had some drugs on the grounds, but we don't really have a problem with that either, because we vet our ladies pretty well, our men pretty well. And again, the minute there's drugs on the grounds, everybody's going to tell us. They're all like, so-and-so's acting strange. I smell something funny. I don't know, they're acting strange. And we just go in to do a drug test and we immediately catch it. So,
and if it turns out positive, you tell them to pack their bags or what?
So it depends on what it's positive for one. And it also depends on whether or not they were actually doing the drug on the grounds. If they have drugs on the grounds, it's an automatic removal. There are 3 cases where there's automatic removal. 1 is I have drugs on the grounds. 2 is I have a weapon on the grounds. And 3 is I physically harmed somebody on the grounds. So those are all 3 automatic removals. There's no disciplinary action for that.
Well, I hope that didn't happen very often.
No, honestly, I've had to replace one person. This was clear back when we were still in Burleson. I had to remove a 19-year-old. She had a bag of marijuana, a backpack of marijuana. And so I had to remove. It was a backpack. It was quite a bit.
Yeah, that's
I was
more
like, what
than
do I do with this?
A dime bag, as
It was a backpack filled with dime bags. So let's just say that. I was like, whoa. So I called one of our judges and I was like, what do I just call the cops? Like, what do I do with this? And so we ended up calling the police department and they came and got it for us. But I didn't want to get her into trouble. So I was like,
she got herself into trouble.
Yeah. I mean, so it's kind of like, I'm so sorry about this, but not only are you getting removed, but I have to legally get rid of this illegal substance that is now on my property. So
well, you didn't have any choice in that.
No, I don't. It just, she was a nice kid and, young and yada, yada. And, but it is what it is. It was a choice that she made.
When I envisioned in my head what we're talking about these women coming to y'all wanting a place, this particularly single women, I have to believe that there's been a history of abuse, sexual, physical, emotional.
Yes.
All the above of type abuse.
I feel like I can safely say 100% of our residents have some form of abuse in their background.
From some, family member, ex-spouse or boyfriend or you name it.
Husband.
Yeah, right. And all this, and I would imagine almost every case you have, we're talking about, women whose lives have spun out of control, maybe some because of bad choices, but many things that happened to them that they didn't ask for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I bet there's some stories, How do you drop that behind you after having these stories?
It's hard, and so when we do counseling, I've heard a lot of stories, but there's 1 or 2 in particular where I've done some inner healing, and inner healing is it's a little bit like EMDR where you kind of have this, except you're greater.
I know what you're talking about, the eye movement.
Yes.
Okay,
so this is kind of more in the spirit. They kind of close their eyes. We take them back into a space and place where they experience trauma, and we bring in, and they shift from what they're experiencing, from their emotions, the message of that moment that they're receiving, to what was God saying, basically rewriting or reframing that moment with that safe space, and that safe space being God for them. So with EMDR, they'll basically have you kind of identify a safe person or a safe place, and that kind of becomes your anchor when you're doing EMDR. So it's very similar. It's just that we believe that the Holy Spirit and God is your safe space. And so we allow the Holy Spirit to go in and rewrite those moments. But as a counselor, you're going into that moment with them. And it's important that you give them space and room to get in touch with how were you feeling in that moment. So I had a resident who I was their counselor. So every resident has a counselor, and we did some inner healing on her childhood. And I feel very overwhelmed even just thinking about the level of trauma and the details that she gave as she was going through some healing was honestly, I had to sit with my counselor afterwards. I was like, I need to just, cause it was traumatic just to listen to.
Your friend Darren Ash says hello.
Hi, Aaron. How are you? He's actually from Ohio.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, international reach.
So I travel a lot to Ohio. So he goes to a lot of my meetings there.
Well, as a teacher, I would see young women, and I'd sometimes see see a trajectory in their lives that was concerning. But I wasn't in the same situation you're in. You know, I couldn't intervene as a teacher.
Yeah, which I feel like would be just as frustrating.
It is, and also it's not just because of the professional boundaries, but also you know, the gender boundaries. Let's say, because you know, there so many men in their life had ulterior motives that if I tried to, you know, even on all good faith, try to say, you know, tell me what's going on, I would be viewed in the same way.
Yeah.
So I was limited in that. Now we had a couple of female counselors and a couple of teachers that were better at it, but it's still, it was a real chasm there between what I could do and what I wanted to do. And
absolutely.
so, but you could see it, and it was just sad because the choices they were making, not so much drugs, but relationships, you know, and so it was just very difficult to see it sometimes. And then I'd see them later in life, and a couple of them, you know, made the U-turn they needed to make, but some of them didn't. Yeah. And it just tough.
Yeah.
You know, and Facebook also, when it became more popular, of course, we became more exposed to it. Yeah. A lot of people use it as a diary, and it's like, you know, it's like, oh, a little too much information.
Yes. So go back to the question, like, how do we, our intake process, and how, you know, how do we kind of screen these people? So they apply, and there are certain things that qualify them right away for our program. One is I've been voluntarily clean for 6 months. One is I am not currently in a domestic violence situation. So that doesn't mean they haven't been in a domestic violence situation. It just means we don't have the safety or the security. You got to have 24/7 security, and there's a lot of legalities. I mean, domestic violence is a beast in and of itself. So we partner with One Safe Place, and of course Johnson County Crisis Center as well when it comes to people in domestic violence. But we're a great next stop for somebody who's now out of that domestic violence situation and has to rebuild their life. And it's like, you know, I've lived with an abuser for 12 years and I've never had a license. Or I've never had a job because he didn't let me out of my house. He completely controlled me. I don't know what my favorite color is, those kinds of things. Really? So, yeah. I
mean, to the control to that degree.
Oh, yeah. Abusers will, I have no friends because he cut me off from any kind of society. I've lost contact with my family. Yes, I've never had a driver's license. I've never been allowed to work. I've never had a phone. So yeah, abusers will control your life to that degree.
I had a cousin.
And we'll call it taking care of you.
Yeah, well, I had a cousin that we had to go kind of extricate from a situation like that about 20 years ago. Yeah. And we didn't have any idea the poverty she was living in, even though he was making a living, a good living. He was just that abusive that he kept her he chose poverty instead of having it happen to him. Yeah. And so we went and got her. Yeah. And it's eye opening, you know, because a lot of these people, maybe in an abusive situation, we wouldn't know it. And because we didn't know it until finally, because she didn't tell my aunt and uncle until towards the end of this whole situation. But besides the connecting thread maybe of abuse and drugs, poverty is a big issue as well. You probably don't have many women that have means coming to live with you. Almost all these women are probably pretty much financially destitute.
Correct. Yeah, that is correct. They're unable to afford. Most of them don't have transportation, which then prevents them from being able to work. Most of them have small children and they can't secure any kind of childcare, which prevents them from being able to work. So they get caught up in this cycle of, I can't get a job because I don't have transportation. I can't get transportation because I don't have a job. Okay, I got transportation, now I have a job. What do I do with my kids? Okay, I got transportation and I got a job and I got my kids in daycare, but my kids were sick 3 days, and so I missed 3 days of work, and so now I don't have a job again. So COVID actually just 100% of our residents lost their jobs during COVID. Really? 100% of them.
Good grief.
Every single one of them, which was devastating for them because it's a lot to get them. I mean, it's a big hurdle to get over all of those barriers to get a working job and those kinds of things. But because their kids weren't in school, they couldn't, even when the economy opened back up, they couldn't go back to work because they had kids.
There is a lot of discussion, and we talked about it as well, about subsidized daycare and things of that nature. What's your view of the government getting involved in something like that?
I mean, somebody needs to get involved in it. I mean, somebody needs to offer some kind of subsidized childcare. And I think, it has to be regulated, safety wise, hygienically wise, those kinds of things. And so I think we need more of those dollars in Johnson County. I think we need more of those types of services in Johnson County. And when you take a look at the top poverty barriers, lack of affordable and accessible childcare is definitely one of the top 7 that we are actively trying to attack and that we're facing when we're rehabilitating people in our program. And the number 2 is the lack of affordable and accessible transportation.
All right. Would you be more in favor of saying having a government facility or the government subsidizing so that people could choose their own daycare situation?
I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I've not really ever thought about it. I think because I'm a freedom girl, and I believe that people have the freedom to choose, I would say give them the money and let them choose, and that you have X amount of daycares that have been approved. Maybe they've gone through the appropriate, so they're an approved site by the government, but they're not run by the government.
Well, I'm not in favor of government-run programs for various reasons, and I'm not. It's not because I think that the government is nefarious in every detail, but I just don't think they're run as well as private sector.
Oh, absolutely.
Situations. And second of all, the real problem I would see is you're going to have some nitwit that's going to be raising all sorts of cane about church state stuff because a lot of these daycares are faith based.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
But so they're, I think some of them are a bit talking on both sides of their mouth. They want subsidized daycare, but they don't want to have it be done at First Baptist daycare.
Right.
Because, oh my Lord,
right.
These kids might, you never
might
know.
come to know Jesus.
Yeah, it might become a Christian. We can't have that, and that kind of stuff. And,
yeah.
But it's just, it's a complex issue, but I've talked to a couple other people in your general nonprofit world, and they say the same thing.
Yeah.
Jennifer over at Harvest House and Debbie Beeman over at Promises, the ladies I had Tuesday at Next Step, I mean, it's a common theme is that, when Next Step gets a client and all this, one of the big problems is daycare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you thought about opening a daycare?
Absolutely, I have. And the conundrum is, do I open it as a nonprofit and then try and deal with, you still have the government relations because you have to have that government regulations because you're dealing with kids under 18.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a conundrum. It can be done. I've looked into it off and on over the years Brad and I have even talked about opening up a daycare as a business,
right?
That we would own and that we would basically offer it on a sliding scale, those kinds of things. I mean, at this point, as a nonprofit, you don't get a whole lot of donations because of people are going to get a tax write-off. Like that's not a big perk anymore.
No, it isn't. The tax laws about 6 years ago really
I mean, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, like when I started my nonprofit, it was like, oh, you should get a 501c3 because then people will donate money because they get a tax write-off. And that was true in 2011.
Right.
But anymore, people are like, actually, I'm better off writing a check and calling it this, calling it a sponsorship or calling it a business write-off or those kinds of things because they get more of a deduction.
Right. Well, that's something really to consider, though. I mean, I'm sure you thought about where you'd have it and what kind of facility it'd be, and would you build it from ground up or take over a building, on and on and on. I'm sure. And none of that's going to come without these days in particular, high cost.
Right. And it's interesting because I don't know if you know this, but Brad is in the home health hospice industry and he's been on both a nonprofit and for-profit side. And it's kind of the same way. Years ago, non-for-profit was the way to go and now it's for-profit. And so it'd be very similar financially to something like that, whereas like for every patient, they get X amount of dollars from the government, even though it's a private sector, you know what I mean? So daycare is a lot like that. So it can be very profitable to people who are doing it for profit. But I think there's a lot of ways you can cut costs to the actual consumer if you have an owner that's willing to basically say, I'm not really in this for business, I'm in this for ministry.
Right.
And I'm not saying you can't make money when you're in ministry.
Right.
Because I'm in ministry with Lisa Schwarz LLC, and I make money doing that. But I do that to help pay for the other ministries, right? So that one feeds the other, and all of those things. And
well, the Bible says the workman's worth the hire.
Absolutely.
And so
don't muzzle an ox while he's treading the grain.
Right. And so, I never had a real big issue.
No, I don't either.
But I'm just my head's spinning with this idea. I mean, a daycare, I guarantee you, if you open it up by some magic tomorrow,
it would be filled.
Yeah, right. You'd have a waiting list by lunchtime. And because I know that's a big issue, and it's just so expensive. You know, when my wife and I had young children, we were fortunate that we had the wherewithal to take care of it. If we didn't, it'd be a real problem. We also kept our kids with a local lady, lived about a mile from us. And so we did not use facilities except for like 2 or 3 week stretches when they wouldn't be available. But we had the same problem, though.
Yeah.
We get a phone call from the lady, and she says, so-and-so is sick, so I can't have any kids over, or I'm sick, or whatever. And so Robin and I are scrambling, trying to find.
Yeah.
So
when you take a look at so go back to the COVID situation for a year and a half, if any one of our residents was exposed to COVID, none of the kids could go to school for 12 days.
good heavens.
So it'd be like 33 kids all have to stay home like every other week for, you know what I mean? Because it was like everybody's always, I was exposed, or certainly if they were positive, then of course the entire campus would have to shut down again. It was a lot.
Well, I unfortunately was not in the public school system when it happened, but Robin was, and man, it was tough.
Yeah.
And
I mean, everybody's trying to navigate an unknown beast, right? That we don't know anything about. And so it really devastated our residents. And in fact, I remember doing when the economy shut down, we did a virtual call with them, sent a link, and we're like, we're going to stay off the campus for a while. We're going to be meeting like this. And one of the residents just was crying and was like, I'm going to have to start all over. I'm going to have to start all over. Are you going to reset our programs? And so a lot of the ladies who were in the program that year, we did reset their program. And so they ended up being with us for about 3 years instead of the 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also just remember reading last week that there's a bunch of articles come out about the learning loss that occurred during that time, and we're still suffering from it now. And so it's a similar thing. I'm sure those kids had that problem, and I can only imagine the academic difficulties those kids are going through because of lack of a stable education system for them. I mean, they're probably changing schools all the time. Yes.
And we have really, really, really great partnership with the Cleburne ISD, which is where our main campuses are, our family campuses. So most of our kids are in the Cleburne ISD. And Debbie Reynolds there, she's the homeless liaison. She is phenomenal.
So Cleburne ISD has somebody specifically in that position.
They have somebody specifically in that position for every campus. So Debbie Reynolds is in charge of all the homeless liaisons. So over the last 2 or 3 years, they've actually slowly been hiring one for every campus. Well, so we partner very well with them. Yes.
Does Burleson ISD have that?
If they do, I am not aware of it.
Well, I'll ask them next time. They're coming back on the show in September.
Yeah, and in fairness, they don't have the homelessness issues quite like they do in Cleburne, but I think
they're getting here.
I think they have more than they think they do.
Well, they do, because you ask Debbie and Jennifer, they'll tell you they're getting swamped with people living in their cars.
It's nice to have that one person that we can interact with and partner on behalf. So when we move a family in, that's the first thing we do. And Debbie comes to our campuses, and she'll meet and she'll help register the kids, and she'll make sure the kids all have all their supplies and their uniforms, and that they have a Chromebook, and she helps get them on, if they need the bus, she'll help get them on the bus. So she comes over and actually does a lot of that for them. Because of course, people in poverty, again, one of the breakdowns and one of the barriers is emotionally, when your emotions are higher, your ability to make decisions gets so much lower. And so when you throw at them here's the link to register your kid, and it's this 35-page, that is extremely overwhelming to somebody who's in poverty and really has not had a whole lot of access to computers. And so that's part of what our case managers do. But we love Debbie because she comes over and does it for them. And she takes advantage of the opportunity to build a relationship with them, and wants to get to know the kids. And so we have a beautiful partnership with them.
Well, I was going to ask you before you told me about Cleburne that if you thought about opening up your own homeschool type situation, a charter school. But I think if Cleburne's got this kind of program, I think that suffices pretty well. Yeah. We have had really good luck, and our parents really seem to like the Cleburne school district. We've had good luck with Joshua school districts as well. Well, I'll talk to my friends on the school board. I do have a couple of friends on the school board. I say, hey, if we don't have this, why not? Because
I think we're getting there. We're getting to that place, if not already past it. But
well, we are past it because,
again, it's your show. I'm trying to be delicate.
No, we are past it. I know that my last few years as a teacher, I saw a little bit more of it than I used to see.
Mm-hmm.
I always had kids that were maybe in between houses because of divorce or whatever else, but I started having more and more kids that really had no stable situation as a family, and that kind of thing. But no, if BISD is not as far down the road because they think, well, that's not quite our problem yet, they're mistaken. Because Jennifer and Debbie have said they are overwhelmed with people that are either living like a week on a couch here and a week over there or out of their cars. And this, I think a lot of, because we don't see it under a bridge like you do downtown Fort Worth.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Poverty looks very different in Johnson County. Suburban poverty is very different.
Yeah. And they also talk about the amount of demand for food is... They're barely hanging on, and so it's a real problem. So when I get BSD back on there, I told Michaela that we'd give the summer off, because everybody's on vacation and all that. But that's something I think when you and I were in school, our schools didn't really feel the burden of dealing with social issues this much.
Right.
But now, now we do.
Yeah. The lines have become very blurry for sure.
Well, I'm older than you, and I graduated probably 10 to 15 years more than you. Yeah, I'm 61.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm 50.
Okay, see. All right. You're youngin'. All right. But it's like, I don't remember my high school getting involved in these kind of things. But now they have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, but back to your facilities, you do have a waiting list and all this. If you could, besides just say money, I mean, I know everybody needs that, but I'm just saying, what is your goal for a facility? I know you had, last time we talked about something you wanted to work towards.
So we have just built that Connections building. And so we're working towards still finishing up the parking area, getting that usable. We would love to see the community use that, rent that space, which would help create some revenue, of course, for the mission, but also is very centrally located, a large meeting space where you can have a meeting with 80 to 100 people in there with a sound system and all that stuff. So we're trying to kind of get that out there where we're starting to contract with some other businesses and people who want to hold luncheons, those kinds of things. So it's a great facility for something like that.
I've been on this tangent for about 2 years now. I wish Burleson had a meeting place, but we're always using Pathways of First Baptist, which is, they're very generous and it's more than adequate, but I wish we had a public place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as other needs, what physical needs do y'all have besides the facility?
Yeah. So we could always use refrigerators. We go through a lot of refrigerators. I think we own probably 37 to 38 refrigerators.
Why do you go through them? I mean, they just don't last.
Well, we get them donated.
Okay.
And so inevitably when you have 37 to 38, 1 or 2 breaks a month. They're old,
Right.
So we always go through a lot of refrigerators, washers and dryers, same thing. We have 2 sets of washers and dryers on almost every campus. And there's a lot of people using them.
I bet they're going 24/7 almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to do laundry during quiet hours because the laundry rooms on one of our campus, the family campus, because the laundry rooms are up against other people who are trying to sleep. So, so there are certain stipulations as to when the laundry room can be used. But we're always going through washers and dryers. And so if anybody has old washer and dryer, or you just want to buy one for us, that's great. Well, refrigerators, we're always going through those. We go through a lot of twin mattresses.
Do you pick up?
We do pick up.
Because if I had a washer and dryer, I have a Mazda. I can't just throw it on top.
Correct. So we do pick up. What we don't do is, hey, I'm having a rummage sale tomorrow on Friday. Can you come pick up all our leftovers? We don't do that. So we have general pickup days. I think they pick up like the last Wednesdays of the month, those kinds of things. So if it's somebody that's like, yeah, I can hold on to it for 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm not saying we won't pick it up. I'm just can't guarantee it because we also have to partner with people to get a truck and a trailer as well. We don't own a truck and trailer. So we're working with volunteers to come pick up your stuff.
Well, now for most people probably already know this, but if you donate a refrigerator or a washer and dryer, it is tax deductible.
Yes, it is.
I don't know how the evaluation is, but
I'm not really sure either on a donated item at this point, but yeah, we will write you a tax receipt.
Basically what I understand is you write the receipt and we fill in the numbers.
Correct.
So I have this, my washer and dryer is really good. It's $500,000.
Yeah, yes.
That's interesting because, if I run across one, I'll let you know because, I know y'all need it.
Yeah.
And
we do have a Connex where if we don't need it right now, we'll put it in the Connex. And so in 2 weeks, if something breaks, we've got one out there.
Yeah, got one in the bullpen.
So we usually like one. We usually like a spare. And then the other thing that we go through a lot of is twin mattresses. So twin mattresses, pillows, twin mattress sets. And again,
like box springs and mattress?
Nope, just a mattress. We don't need the box spring, just the mattress.
Okay, that's a question about specifically about mattresses. I went by and dropped off a piece of furniture at Harvest House about a month ago, and I said, "Hey, I got some stuff out here," and they said, "Well, we can't take mattresses because of it has to be
right."
You just take them? Do you sterilize them yourself?
We prefer them to be brand new.
Okay, see, because I know of somebody that has
if somebody's like, I have a twin mattress, whatever, and we know where it's coming from. We know the houses. Occasionally, we'll take it, but we do you can get a twin mattress that we have are on at Walmart for $150.
Okay.
So, and then we store them. We have a storage room where we store the mattresses that are inside to keep them well.
I know this mattress I'm thinking of, it's at our house.
Yeah.
It's my daughter's old house.
Yeah.
But we try to get rid of it, and a lot of people don't take used mattresses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's interesting. But the appliances are always in need, huh?
Yes. Appliances, twin mattresses. And then what a lot of people don't realize, because our residents come in, and they stay with us for 2 years, and then we move their bedding and their bed set and their towel and their pillow and their mattress and everything with them into that 3rd year. And then when they move out, we send them with it. And so that's why we go through a lot of twin mattresses, but we feel like that's a courtesy, and we want them to be set up with at least a mattress to sleep on when they move out. So
but you prefer, obviously, a new mattress would, forego a lot of the other issues that we were talking about.
Yes. But if you have if you were to say, hey, this mattress is in great shape, it's been sitting in my, we would probably take it because we know you and we trust that you don't have bed bugs in your house.
No, we don't, but it's also been in the garage for about 5 months.
Oh, yeah. See, it could have mold in it, even if it has just a little speck of mold. Yeah. And that's a problem for us.
That's why I couldn't do it because, because we had, like I said, it's been in the garage quite some time now. And who knows what's happening.
Yeah, we don't store ours outside either. We store ours inside. We put a cover on them. The other thing we go through a lot of is bed bug covers. And so we have a particular bed bug cover that we use that is waterproof and actually bed bug proof, and they're not cheap. And those have to be replaced probably about every 6 to 8 months on every mattress. So our site coordinator goes through every Tuesday and inspects all of our rooms, and one of the components of that inspection is pulling back the sheet. Well, to make sure they have sheets on their bed mattress, because that's a problem sometimes for us. And then she pulls back to make sure that the bed bug mattress is intact, it's zipped up, doesn't have holes in it, and then we have put bed bug covers on the pillows as well.
Good grief, that's a lot.
Well, we've had we inherited a campus that was infested with bed bugs, and it was probably about $7,200 for us to get rid of it.
Good grief.
And at the end of the day, we actually had to empty the campus and just remove, but we used Tim Davis from Alpha and Omega, of course, and he was like, look, we just need to get the host out of the building. And so we had to shut the building down for about 3 months, and they kept going in and spraying, and that's how we finally got rid of them.
So you recommend Tim Davis?
I do recommend. Tim is a big supporter of Crazy 8 Ministries.
I have not met him, but obviously I've heard of Alpha and Omega.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's a fantastic human. You need to have him on. I bet he'd have a lot to say.
Okay. He's welcome here.
Yeah.
I drive by his place.
But he's a big supporter of a lot of ministries, and he's a big, he supports even my personal, my Lisa Schwarz LLC. So he's my YouTube sponsor. And so he does all of that. But he came to City on a Hill and just, much like you did, to just support the event and see what's going on. And
he needs to sponsor a certain podcast. Who knows? But I've been asking this of all the nonprofit participants. How do you decompress from all this? What do you do to kind of keep your spirit up? Because I got to be,
Yeah.
just believe that some mornings you lie there thinking, I can't do this today.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal. You definitely have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Honestly, I love my backyard. In 2019, Brad and I kind of moved out of the city, and we have 3 acres, and it's a good 20 to 25 minute drive back into town. And that's been really good for me. Because once I get out there, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit. And I love to sit in our backyard. I love to garden. And by garden, I mean just plants, tropical plants. I'm not a fruits and vegetable girl, but
it sounds, that's what my wife does.
I like to just honestly in the mornings, I get up a little early. I have a golden retriever who's like my right hand guy. I love him. He's like, and I go out and just throw the ball for him. And I'm very intentional. A lot of times we have a hot tub, which is great because you can't take your phone in the hot tub with you. So there's a lot of things that we have set up at our house that afford an opportunity to just decompress and unplug for at least 15 to 20 minutes.
Well, it has to be necessary because I can imagine, some days you come home and you've heard these terrible stories or you had to tell somebody bad news or you had to drop the hammer on somebody. And you just can't drop that at the front door.
So yesterday I had 6 clients, and they were literally on the top of the hour, 6 hours in a row. And I very rarely have 6 clients. I usually have 4 or 5 in a day. And I was like, that was one too many. I could tell my brain was a little frazzled after that. And so I had to go out back but I usually take 15 to 20 minutes at least 3 times a day to sit, be still, don't take my phone with me, and just take some time to breathe, make sure I'm aware of the presence of the Lord, take some time to, focus, meditate, pray. And usually I do that in my backyard while I'm throwing the ball for my dog.
Now, you mentioned something, speaking of, meditation and prayer time. You also mentioned something coming up Saturday. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Saturday we have our prophetic ministry. So we have about 8 or 9 prophetic teams from Johnson County that will be at our new building that I was telling you about, our Connections building. And they will be available at it's by donation only, and people can come. It's come and go from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and just receive some encouragement through prayer.
Right. I think, some people who are not as familiar with, the aspects of Scripture, talking about prophets, I think of Elijah or something like that,
right.
Ranting and raving or predicting doom. It's far from it. Prophecy is basically a word of encouragement from the Lord.
Yes.
It's not predicting that Cowboys score Sunday. It's it's basically the intuitive leanings of these people that are trying to support what you're doing or where you are in your life. We talked about before, there was a lady in our church that she never claimed to be a prophet, but she just seemed to intuitively know what was going on in her lives, even if we hadn't told her.
Yes.
And to me, it's, it was just the Holy Spirit leaning upon her, telling her this is what's going on in this person's life.
I like to say that prophecy is the revelation of the Holy Spirit combined with the Word of God for the purpose of encouraging somebody.
Right. Well, I wanted to make sure that people hear this, thinking you're not going to have, Jeremiah.
No, we're not prophesying about the 2024 election. We're going to stay out of that lane.
No, I'm projecting doom, and I'm not a prophet. But as we come close to the end here, tell us again about your events and the dates.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. So September 29th is our golf tournament, and it's at Southern Oaks. We are looking for golf teams. We're still looking for sponsorships. Come hang out with us. It's always a really good time. It's a great way. Our residents are always there working the event, so it's a good way to interact with them. Typically, they tell their testimonies, but just come interact with them to ask them about our program. That's the best way to learn. And then November 4th is our Ocho Loco, which is our 5K, and you can show up and run, or you can sign up to be a sleep-in supporter, so you can pay to not run. I'm gonna pay to sleep in that day. So we have people that are like, I don't want to get up that early. I don't like to run. We're like, okay, so we created a sleep-in supporter option as well, and that is also here in the city of Burleson. So we're excited to partner with the city for that event coming up as well. So those are our two only fundraisers that we do in a year, actually, is our golf tournament and our Ocho Loco. We don't do galas anymore. City on a Hill's not a fundraiser. I don't enjoy fundraising. It's not very, it's not very good. I mean, the best way to make money is to build relationships, and I'd rather go out and have lunch with people than spend my time putting together a gala.
Well, your peers all say, getting on like a monthly donation, auto pay kind of thing is
absolutely,
is what they prefer.
Yeah, that's what sustains us. Is what much like life. I mean, that's what sustains you. Is you've got to have cash flow, right, coming into your house.
Oh well, it's flowing just the wrong direction. July's been pretty tough, but that's God will provide. I'm not too worried, but still. I don't mind if he hurries up a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, make sure you're on your calendar September 21st, which is National Giving Day, because that's when all your peers are going to be here.
Yes. I think I do have that on my calendar to be here as well.
Okay, so that's always it's one of my favorite days.
Yeah, it really is, and it's fun to we do a lot of lives on that day, just talking about like, look, this is Crazy 8. This is what we do. We love this, but we don't care. Just give somewhere, be a part of the community, and be a part of what God is doing through your local social services. So get involved in that.
Do other communities have this level of support through the nonprofits? I mean, I sit here with this global view of things because they come to this studio and we talk about it, and it's like, what a blessed community we must be, because we, besides you, we have Harvest House and Promises and Next Step and Nate, the Center for ASD, and then we have Re-Inspire and all this, and it's like, wow, it's what a blessing that is.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget Fitability. Sorry, Jessica. She was on not too long ago, about a month ago. I drove by her facility. Anyway, after the show, we'll figure out another time because schedule. But I appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a good time. I appreciate it.
It is, and I just am highly impressed. Not just with the spirit of which you do things, but the organization that you run. I mean, it isn't like I just go to pray about it. You must be pretty tired at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, it's energizing though too. When you see it working and people changing, that feeds your soul. So it's not all soul sucking.
No, it can't be. But it's still there. I know there. I've been asking a lot of that about, are some days better than others kind of thing, because I think people need to understand that yes, you're in it and you get the energized emotions and you feel like the Lord's on your side and all this, but it can be very burdensome sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think people need to know that y'all may be super women, but y'all still get tired.
We're still very human.
But anyway, thank you for coming. Next week I have Java John on Monday, which I'm looking forward to. So is Taylor. And I'm going by HEB. If he's there, should I tell him to bring some samples?
He better bring some samples.
Okay. I don't know if you know Java John, but he works at Harvest House as well. And then Tuesday, I'm going to have Lisa Boltinghouse on, and she'll be talking about the ASD Center, obviously, but she's going to bring a couple of friends, and we're going to talk about what it's like to be a parent of an autistic child.
That's good.
Yeah, and that's, the burdens that carries.
Yes.
And then I have Tammy King from Child Advocacy Center.
Very good.
On Thursday.
Very good.
You know Tammy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I got a good week coming up.
We also know Sheriff King very well.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. I bet you do. All right. Thank you, Taylor. And we'll see y'all Monday.